Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Oh, it's the pain I can assure you will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time, obsessed with the issue of violence. Mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Good evening, all. I hope you have kept your appointment. It is good to see you here on the 111th episode of Double Feature Horror Show. We're getting into the high numbers here. I see people they're getting ads on this stream, which is holding them back a bit. I can only complain half-heartedly about ads as the money is nice.
Do not skip.
Yes, no skipping. Well, if they've skipped it, they're going to hear us telling them not to skip. Oh, no.
Well, then let it be a lesson to them.
We salute you. And I don't think the ads are going to stay on this one as we get into discussing it, are they?
I don't know what makes you think that.
Well,
I will say I'm not going to point it out, right? Because I don't want a certain Mohan person to pick up on it. Mm-hmm. But I will say that one of my videos, that I uploaded, that I did about 6 months ago, I think it was, got demonetized because of something on the thumbnail. It was a pair of scissors.
Oh, we don't have a chance. I've got all sorts of pointy objects in the screen caps for this video. There are some grisly moments, and I thought, I'll chance it with one. There are some, what's the phrase? There are some fruity symbols in this that I've mostly kept out of the screen caps.
I think what you should do is replace them with rubber balloons. Like the balloons that clowns use when they make the little giraffes and stuff.
Oh, I see what you're getting at here. I did make one change to make it a bit more friendly for YouTube if you're interested.
Okay.
I was going to get to it a bit later, but I'll this is how far I go to stay on the right side of YouTube. See? Oh. Much friendlier. Much more friendlier.
Oh my God, I love it.
I hope you appreciate this.
Oh my God, I love that. That is brilliant.
We've got to have fun. Folks, I hope you're well. I'm seeing lots of familiar faces, lots of people returning. It is great. All my regulars, it is lovely to see you. I hope you enjoyed doing this week's horror homework. And also, for the second time in a row, I'm actually remembering all the replay chads who come in, who can't make it on the night. So hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Doing the horror homework for this week, Outpost from 2008. Directed by Steve Baker, and it also available free with ads. Except I didn't get any ads when I watched it either time, which was pretty darn sweet.
Yeah, you're well lucky, because they must have chucked all the ads onto my viewing of it, because I was getting they on the video. You have the little bar at the bottom, and it has these little highlighted parts. That's where your ad's going to be. Yeah. No, that completely went tits up, and it was popping up every 3 to 4 minutes.
Ooh, that's brutal.
But don't worry, I did watch it multiple times and it did seem to fix itself afterwards. But that first watch, I was like, this can't be right. This can't be right.
I found they hit me up with the ads on the freebie thing if I watch it on the computer, but on the smart TV, you're all good.
Oh no, I did that. I did it on both. I did it on my phone. I watched it on the TV, and it caught me out both times. So yeah, you were lucky.
I was very lucky. I was super lucky. But we're getting ahead of ourselves because, we're keen to talk about this, obviously. And it's an interesting episode. I should also say it's a bit of a tribute episode. We're doing this at the request of a friend of the channel, Fez. Don't know if you're in, Fez, but just for you, you requested this. I know you're a member, and we are happy to do member requests here. It is something I'm very keen to do, even when members request that we cover Plan 9 from outer space. Anyway, but this was an interesting one. Fez wanted us to cover this as a tribute to Ray Stevenson, the lead in this, who passed away about 4 weeks ago, I think. And
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I was sad that we couldn't do it a bit closer to the time, but nevertheless, I did want to do this on the request, and I thought, to be honest, it was carried quite well by Ray Stevenson. I can see why he was a good choice for it. He had the build, he had the demeanor. He was very believable as a sort of commanding officer sort of figure. But, we'll get into it a bit further. But first, of course, I've got to introduce my regular co-host. You'll know him. When things get rough, he's in the club shooting with Puff. It's TCG.
Hello.
Don't continue those lyrics.
No. I would if I knew which lyrics they were. Hang on. Oh, I know what it is. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I won't keep going.
Yes. It's a little treat for everyone.
Something about mental diseases and getting on your knees is something like that.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one. You're on the wavelength. I'm wondering how much of chat do you reckon hears these and gets it and is just doing the lyrics alongside us?
Oh, I reckon our chat are like the smartest chat on the whole of YouTube. In fact, the whole of the internet. So
a bit on YouTube, I can believe it.
Yeah, I imagine they'll be getting it every week. They'll have a higher success ratio than I will.
We're going to have to test that. Should I maybe leave a big lag and just see it? Chat, you just sort of get the lyrics out there, and if you've got it, you win kudos.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We'll put some little countdown music or something just to make sure there's no dead air.
All right. Yes, the countdown theme. How about it? Well, we should carry on with things, keep the double act going. We are that. We are the oxide and neutrino of UK horror analysis channels. Brilliant. I got so many of those. How many of those double acts were there that just had the one hit?
They're the only ones I can think of off the top of my head. I was going to say Ant and Dec, or like PJ and Duncan, but they had quite a few hits, didn't they, back in the mid-90s?
They did. They had one called Crazy Cats.
Could you say Jedward?
Oh,
I don't even know if they actually did have a hit. I don't know.
I was thinking more like the garage scene.
Cheeky Girls.
Okay, I'm going to have to... Although, wait, there's a connection here. Cheeky Girls are Romania, Eastern Europe. This film's set in Eastern Europe. We've done it. Segue.
Boom.
That's so smooth. But before we carry on with that, do you want to get some cheeky shilling out before we get into Outpost?
Yeah, so nothing new on my channel this week. However, there will be something out over on a channel called Tea and Crime this Sunday, I believe. As a collaborative effort that, actually, full disclosure, it was a collaboration we did a while back that I did the whole narration on. However, when he rebranded and set up a new channel elsewhere on the interwebs, he asked if he could sort of remix the original collaboration that we did, because he wanted to sort of put himself into it more, which I thought was a brilliant idea. So he's going to take all the experience that he's built up since that collaboration and then bring out this fancy schmancy, wonderfully handy dandy new video on Sunday for his audience. So I will obviously promote that on my channel when that comes out. But yeah, definitely go and subscribe to Tea and Crime, the word and not the ampersands. The ampersands is the defunct channel now. But yeah, if you look up Tea and Crime on YouTube, go and subscribe and check him out as well, because he's got some decent little content on there. Him and Royston and Rain, they do a really good job over there. The first video, video, my super secret project that I am currently working on at the moment is 1/5 of the way there. Now, members of my channel will get an announcement at 9,500, and they'll get early access to what that will be. But I will be announcing it officially at 10,000 subscribers, and we are about 951 away from that milestone. So if you haven't already, go over to my channel, hit the subscribe button. If you want to find out a little bit earlier, join, become a member.
Oh, fantastically done. And yeah, please do. You know TCG deserves it, and he's doing good stuff. And also, I know what this project is, and I want to see it released. I don't want to wait for all the previews. So yeah, let's speed that along. That'd be fantastic. I'll do a cheeky shill because I've been terribly swamped with work this week, so I'm behind on basically everything that isn't scripting. So I'll also shill your last video because I didn't get the notification for it, so I had to hunt it down. And it was quite a change in style, I thought, but I went for it. I liked it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
the guy looking through the window.
The Cape Intruder. Yeah, I'm not surprised you didn't get the notification. I put a poll out last week, and more than half of the people who voted didn't get it. So YouTube is being YouTube, which of course we wouldn't criticise in the slightest, because
we love
they
YouTube.
they're like the NHS. They are infallible. But yeah, guys, if you haven't gone and check that out, it's a very different style, because obviously, most of the true crime scene is all about, the like murders, serial killers, and things like that. And obviously, that is a serious topic, and I'm not going to demean that. But this month was a bit experimental for me. So I did at the beginning of the month, I covered a story which wasn't true, but a forensic pathologist person gave a speech on a hypothetical case, describing how you can, with a few tweaks to the facts, you can change the outcome of an investigation. And then, as Horrorshow mentioned, I covered the case of the Cape Intruder, which was a true story which took place out in Cape Elizabeth, Maine, in, I believe it was 2005, 2006. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very creepy story, and there is a bonus story of the same nature thrown in for good measure as well. So go and check that out.
That first mugshot of the guy arrested for the second round of offences was quite hilarious, though.
Yeah, I know, right?
The guy's got an absolute meme face, folks. It's worth it for the guy's meme face.
I just love that the Halifax police sketch was describing a man in their mid-20s, and then when they do eventually arrest the guy, and it's not that far. It's like 2 years later that they, I think, put the pin on him, but the dude's like nearly 50 by that point. Must have stopped using the anti-wrinkle cream.
Gotta be that. Where is this? A question about our game here. Davey, was it 6 Degrees of Cheeky Girls? It wouldn't be the worst game we've played on here. I actually have I really want to bring back the games. I think next time next time I've got a couple of guests on. How about a game with Play Your Stars Right? And
oh my god,
maybe
yes.
one of the others, because I've got a few others designed. So
Play Your Stars Right is a personal favourite of mine.
We'll bring it back.
Yes.
There's Wheel of Gore tune, which I have yet to debut. I should also say, hey Fez, glad to see you here. We said we're doing this as at your request, so we are very happy to do that. And hi, also the Alabaster, good to see you. What else? Oh yeah, my own shilling. I should shill myself. So obviously, do go and watch TCG's last video. The algo was not friendly to him, and we're going to make up for that. As for me, well, you can support the channel via all the supers if you like supporting your local megacorp, or you can also support me on Subscribestar, which takes a smaller cut, and joining as a member here and on Subscribestar gets you access to exclusive videos, early access, and a little bit of behind the scenes info on what's going on. So there we go. That's all the shilling. I'm too modest to do it, really, and I think we should probably get into it. What do you reckon?
I think that's a good idea.
All right, I'll do the intro. You get that pint of Guinness summary on the brew, and yeah, we will start talking about Outpost from 2008. And I did take a little note here. Where is it? There we go. I like this stylish. It's got a little bit of a, how can I say, made in Photoshop feel to it. It's a simple title, but this is a low budget film. This was shot in 2007, I believe, partly in Eastern Europe, but a lot of it in Scotland. In fact, hang on. No, there we go. Confirmed. Apologies. All in Scotland. All in Scotland. Was shot in Scotland, according to the production notes, including, and I'm sorry, Scotland, including this. It's quite believable, really, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's quite believable, isn't it?
I had my pick of just like absolutely grim, disgraceful location shots where you just think this is pure apocalypse. You know, the Adapters Astartes have cleared through this place. There's probably a Lehman Russ tank in the background somewhere. And no, that's just Scotland. That's just Scotland on a good day. Crikey. Absolute state.
Looks like the more affluent part as well.
Yeah, this is a posh part. Sorry, Scotland. But yeah, this is extremely low budget. It's a British film and a little bit of an interesting passion project here. So, and when I say passion project, I mean someone really put themselves on the line. This was financed by a company called Black Camel Pictures, which kicked things off with £200,000 that they raised from remortgaging the home in Glasgow.
No way.
Yeah. This is Outpost is kind of your classic story of the director who really believes in it, like the passion project, who puts everything on the line and can't really rest, and took a big personal risk. This wasn't a big studio production. This was someone taking a massive gamble. So this is Kieran Parker and Arabella Page Croft. They would later marry, and you know, working with a very limited budget, they managed to get an additional £1 million. So the end budget was about 1.2 million. To finish it all off.
Was that it? 1.2 mil?
1.2? Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I think in some ways you can tell the director is a very minor director, and that is Steve Barker. He knew Kieran Parker from early days of art college in the 90s.
Right.
So it's a little bit of kind of work with your mates, work with what you can get to make sure it happens. Barker didn't do all that much after this. He directed the sequel, but otherwise he seems to have gone a bit quiet. So this is a bit of a one-off, but for basically a first-run picture, it's pretty impressive, especially. So bearing in mind, this is all done for 1.2 million.
That is quite impressive. So I mean, how? So do you know how much Ray Stevenson got paid for this then?
I don't think we'd be able to find out. I mean, as a lead actor,
because I mean, if you're talking 1.2 for the budget, for the entirety of the thing, costs, marketing, and all that jazz, I wouldn't imagine there'd be a lot left for salary. So
I think salaries are probably where it went, to be honest. I mean, someone like Stevenson, who is well known, he had a bit of kudos. I think of him as a bit like a Michael Madsen, which might not ring bells for everyone, but he's a guy you will have seen him, whether he's a dad in Free Willy, whether he's Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs. You know Michael Madsen. I see a Lehman Russ reference has been appreciated. 40k fans, I know you're out there. Yeah, where was I going with that? You know, he's a good name that you recognise, and there's a few other bit part players. Like I was really pleased to see Michael Smiley in this. Does that ring a bell with you, Michael Smiley?
No.
Don't worry about it. You'll know him if you see him. He's the Irish guy. He was Tyres in Spaced. And when we cover psychological horror in the August arc, you'll see him again very prominently in a film called Kill List,
Right.
which we had requested. So good actor, you know, bit player, but he's very memorable. He's got a lot of screen presence. Yeah, Needle and Fur remembers. Yeah, it's Tyres. Did that ring a bell? When I said that, you're like, oh gosh, it's him.
See, I've not even seen Spaced.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's the one with Simon Pegg, is that?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. No, I've not seen it before. I've not seen it.
Oh, that surprises me.
I am an uncultured swine in that regard.
No, it's of its time. I think it's, if you didn't catch it, it would be probably a bit weird going back and watching it, but maybe fun. Maybe fun. It's very of the time, to be honest. Yeah, so where were we? Yeah, independently made. Probably most of the budget went on the few named cast, but they managed to make it look quite nice. You notice little things like there are only 3, or how shall we refer to them? Reanimated sauerkraut appreciators.
I love the dance that we're going to have to be doing this evening, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to demonetize us anyway. So look, we're going to find fun ways to work around saying Nazi zombies. But if you have an interesting way to say it,
I was going to call them Disney.
Suggest.
Yeah, I was going to call them Disney staff members.
Oh, okay, all right, we can do that. How mad are you that this wasn't called Reich of the Living Dead?
Oh,
Huh?
do you know what? I didn't even think of that, but oh my god.
That's all I want.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Oh, would it crack me up? Yahtzees, yeah, we call them Yahtzees, Yahtzee zombies. There we go. So it's niche. It's far from the first. We had a few suggestions actually. I think John Goris came in with some ones I hadn't heard of, but this very specific genre of mid-century German bad guys, it's been done a few times. So John mentions that there's Shockwaves from 1977 with Peter Cushing. I have heard of that. There's Frozen Dead from 1966 with Dana Andrews. They did the reanimated Lebensraum expanders.
Right.
We'd also had Dead Snow, which actually came out a year after this. And I think Dead Snow maybe took a bit of a lead from them, because the sequel to this, if I'm correct, they brought in communist zombies as well, right? Or was that only the third one?
I no, that must have been the third one, because there were no communist. Zombies in the second,
we'll think of something.
Yeah, we'll work it out. We could just
Anyway.
None of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, they definitely come in the third, and the sequel to Dead Snow, the Norwegian horror film, which was a lot more comedy inspired. There is no comedy in this whatsoever. Oh, here we go. Yes.
Men
I like
Tired
it.
by Hugo Boss. Yeah, whilst drinking Fanta and driving Volkswagens.
Oh, there we go. The refantomated.
The
Oh dear, the stuff you have to do on YouTube, eh? Yeah, I think so. Dead Snow, the sequel was Red v Dead, and they brought in their zombienists as well. I'm stealing Chrominion up. I'm playing off that a bit. Zombienists.
Zombrads.
Zombrads is also good. Crow, I see you also saw the news about Gatsby. Yeah, I know.
We got Combis as well by Davey.
Yeah. Thank you, Chrominion. I appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, sad times, sad times. What I'm trying to get at is they've gone to this a lot. I mean, we've talked about how the mid-century Germans are basically the favorite bad guy, on and on again. You never get tired of him. Hollywood never gets tired. And the zombie, obviously in the horror genre, we like to do the zombie version of them. It's not uncommon.
No.
There's a bit of a market for this, but it managed to give it its own particular flavour by being just so absolutely straight-faced, dead serious. Odd that it didn't play it for laughs, you know.
I kind of appreciated that they didn't.
Same. Yeah, it helped it stand out a bit more because it's an odd line to tread. But yeah, it did well enough to get 2 sequels. One of them, this first one was directed by the same director of this, and the third one was directed by Kieran Parker, who mortgaged his house to get it going. And yeah, DVD sales helped carry it on. Back in the days of DVD sales happening.
Gosh.
And yeah, it gained a little bit of cult attention. That's all the history of it. So, would you like to give us a pint of Guinness summary of what actually happens in this film, TCG?
I mean, there really isn't much to say. Man meets mercenary, says, I want to go somewhere to get something. He says, okay, here's your price. I'll get my men. They go to place. They find place. They go inside place. And as they're searching around, they find a man who is a bit catatonic. And so they start trying to press information out of him. And while they're having a look around, strange things are happening. You have people out in the woods shooting at people because there's a bit of a war going on, and they're sort of like right in the middle of it. They think they're going for gold initially, but it transpires that they're actually going for a sandwich that a Disney staff member left behind. That basically can put you in between the living and the dead. If I'm understanding it right, because they started talking about Einstein, and when he was trying to get the unified field theory, they kind of were a bit liberal with the true events that took place. But I do love that they refer to the Philadelphia experiment when giving that little bit of exposition. For those who don't know, that's when apparently the Americans allegedly tried to use teleportation, and it went horribly wrong for people on the USS Eldridge, I believe it's called. You know, apparently they teleported, and when they came back, people were like stuck inside the hulls or like deformed and all that jazz. It's pretty cool. Anyway, yeah. So it turns out that the gold isn't actually gold. It's this ancient Disney staff artifact device that is said to be able to,
I've got it for you right here.
rearrange you essentially at the molecular level, so that you vibrate in such a way that you're neither living nor dead. But one of the side effects was they produced unstoppable, unkillable Disney staff members ready to shove any and all latest Pixar movies down your throat, as well as any Disney Marvel movie that you couldn't bear to stomach, as well as and this would actually explain why The Simpsons is still a thing, why that hasn't died yet. It's obviously gone through the same machine.
Only explanation.
It's the only explanation I have.
1,000 Year Kingdom. Make it so. Oh dear. Yeah. In fairness, they did basically say it's wibbly wobbly. Basically, just it does stuff. Don't worry about it, my
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was a relatively. I felt like it was a relatively simple story. I might be butchering the explanation, but I don't want to. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm being very vague with it. But yeah, essentially, they're going to do a mission, and they end up essentially awakening the undead, if you will. And do they escape? Well, tune in. Buckle up, buckaroos, because we're about to spoil it all.
Oh, well done for actually remembering to give a spoiler warning, because I consistently don't. Yeah, full spoilers for this. I mean, it's very simple, to be honest. There's not too many twists and turns. We've kind of given it to you. It's, you know what? It's a lot like Doom, but with better uniforms. And even some of the same cast.
Oh my god, yeah, that's right, yeah.
His name, let's get it correct. I want to say Richard Brake. It is Richard Brake. Richard Brake is one of the soldiers in this. I will see if I've got an easy photo of him. I think I have. Give me a second here. I've got a terrible photo of him here, but we might just have to go with this one. Okay, we'll go with this one, folks. No one's going to recognize him from this. But this is Richard Brake. He plays kind of a sadistic, drug-addicted, maverick US soldier in this. Whereas in Doom, he played a sadistic, maverick, drug-addicted US soldier. It is... I was really reminded of Doom in this. I couldn't get away from that. I kept thinking this is Doom. This is not an insult, by the way. We enjoyed Doom.
I like Doom. I don't care what the critics say. I really like Doom as a film, just because I'm not too fussed about the connections to the actual game. Because full disclosure, I've not played any Doom games, so I'm not really familiar with the lore extensively anyway. But yeah, do you know, I'm so glad you managed to identify who this guy was, right? Because I'm watching this film and I'm like, I've seen him somewhere before, and he's behaving exactly the same way as from what I can remember him in. I was just like, oh my god. And then as soon as you said he was in Doom, I was like, that's it. Yes, that's it. Yes, that is it.
I like that you have. So I appreciate that. However, I have noticed you just try and skirt by the fact that you just had your own Harrian moment. First, you don't know Space. You haven't seen Space, and then you haven't played Doom. This is your Destiny's Child movie.
No. Because I'm familiar with the games, and so you know, it's not as if I don't know anything about it. I mean, I know the basis up. It's just I don't play scary games, and like this is how much of a chicken I am. I wouldn't even play Doom games because I'd feel like the zombies and demon monsters and things like that would freak me out too much. I have not even played Devil May Cry.
In fairness, I haven't either. Ooh, what do you reckon to this? Dog Soldiers meets Predator.
It was, yeah. Some people had said earlier as well that that it was kind of like Predator as well, and I can see that because again, you're out in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's quite woodlit. You know, it's not a jungle, but it's clearly like a wooded area, and you're fighting an unknown enemy, albeit a far larger quantity of them, and essentially you're overpowered essentially. So yeah, there are links to that. Davey says, "Don't go for the Amnesia series, then, dude. I played Soma, and I did not like it. I mean, I loved it. It was a brilliant game.
I enjoyed you playing it.
I'm pretty sure I'm not going to make it to cash out my pension now."
No. I've just had my mind blown here. Fez commented Night King, and I just hang on. Our boy Richard Brake here on screen was also in Game of Thrones as the Night King. Gosh darn it!
Okay, I'm gonna.
But my memory of the Night King was he was played by someone else.
I also haven't seen Game of Thrones. I actually have the first book in my bookshelf, and I've got about 4 pages into it. So yeah, I'm letting the side down big time.
Oh, do not worry. You know, once we talk sports, then
Maverick
flip of the
My respect
no.
for TCG is now lower than Budweiser's stock price. I'm a busy guy. All TV's lame nowadays anyway.
Fans mutiny as TCG's reputation implodes. You have to go Turley mode on you. Gosh, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, also the Night King. That's a weird. He's got the face for it, but very different character. But he was swapped out after 2 episodes, unfortunately. Game of Thrones did that a lot, but we should digress. I captured one moment that I thought did very well at capturing their grim setting. I shouldn't have laughed at it. This was the comedy moment in the film for me, the only comedy moment.
Right.
It was this woman in the bar. I loved how depressing this was. Just
well, she's in Scotland. I mean, can you blame her?
Yeah, shot in Scotland, pretending to be Eastern Europe. It's like I can believe it, but she just looked so bored. And then there's just the footage of civil war in the background. I loved it. This cracked me up. I think it was like the only sly joke in there.
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I completely missed that bit. I completely forgot. No joke. I was looking at the TV because I was thinking to myself just prior to jumping into the chat with you that there's a distinct lack of female representation in this movie, which the sequel does by introducing one main character, and almost immediately ruins the film in the process. But I completely forgot about that stripper.
I really liked. I genuinely liked that. Like I'll say in advance, I'm a bit mixed on this movie. There's lots of touches I really like, but it's sort of the bigger picture didn't quite work for me. Whereas little details like how bored that woman was, I thought was brilliant. I just thought it had that lovely depressing aura. I loved that in that first meeting, just the little detail that Ray Stevenson, he's meant to be having the solo meeting, but he has just he's brought his men to the bar as well to back him up. I liked that. He only gets named DC in this as well, by the way, which I might just call him Ray Stevenson throughout.
Yeah. Man. Do you know what really bugged
detail, you know?
Yeah. Do you know what really bugged me, right? Although, mind you say that, but he did say that the only person that he hung around with, worked with on every mission was the American dude, was our Doom guy. Yeah, I mean, no, I've lost train of thought now. Where I was going to go. Yeah, I've lost my train of thought. Damn it.
Okay. We're saying like it's quite basic, and there isn't that much plot to it. Something I think we were getting to. Which is sort of a weird complaint to make about a horror film, because like, let's be honest, we get to something like Friday the 13th, so it's very formula, you know. So it's not usually a complaint I would make, but there's a certain amount of, once they get to the bunker, there's very little that happens until it's time for everything to go absolutely chaotic. And they do hold off until like about 50 minutes into the 90-minute movie to really unleash, which is quite a long time. There was a lot of stuff that I found was, it felt like it was treading water a bit. Let me see. I think lots of stuff. I have got a screen cap for it, for these kind of moments. Good, got it. These kind of moments here, where you have the sort of phantom resurrected Disney trooper. Those moments weren't massively working for me, even though they were really creepy. But it also felt very obviously that the rules were being played with.
Oh, definitely. 100%. Because why did they? Yeah, because as you very quickly learn, well, I say quickly learn. I mean, this film, like you say, does take a while to sort of build up pace. But by the time it's all kicking off, like these zombies ain't hanging about. They're not ones to just sort of like stalk you in the shadows. They will very happily attack you from the front whilst you're unleashing a fully automatic firearm into their chest. They're completely unfazed by it because they literally have nothing to fear when it comes to death. And so for them to just sort of be lurking around and just sort of popping up, like in this moment or the other moment as well, which springs to mind, is where the American dude, our Doom guy, who isn't a Doom guy, is playing. I think he starts playing chess with the with the guy that they found, and then when I think he drops a piece on the floor, and when he goes to pick it up, there's like two pairs of two other pairs of feet standing like side by side of the other guy, which is a nice little bit of foreshadowing for later on in the film. But yeah, this the anorexic Kratos, as I like to call him.
Yes. Yeah, what was his name? He's just referred to as the breather in
he gets his name in the second one. I'm just gonna find it now. It's something like Klausner or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Well, to be fair, you're probably
right. Just on the wiki, apparently they named him Goods in the later one.
Oh yeah, Goods.
Goods.
But there was another one. Oh. Yeah. Oh my god, 17% Rotten Tomatoes. Oof.
That's savage. Oh, apparently, we were being so careful about the mid-century German word. Apparently zombie is banned as well. It's all over, boys. It's all over.
No.
Oh, we never had a chance, did we? Crikey.
Oh, screwed.
All right.
Screwed.
Yeah, there was some, as you say, there was some good foreshadowing. I mean, we can fully spoil this movie. Do you want to just spell that out for people?
He turns out to be the leader of this whole Disney. He's basically the chief executive of the Disney branch that he's working at.
Yeah, the Disney HR department.
But again, this doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, again, and they sort of play on it at the end when. At the end of the film, again spoilers, when another sort of team goes into the facility, and then they find, oh look, I think we've got a live one here, and it's obviously referring to this guy again, and it's kind of like they're not. It's not like a haunting situation where like they're repeating the same thing over and over again. Like there's no, and especially in the like if you go to the second one, I mean they're branching out and attacking villages, and they are just relentless. Again, like there's no real sort of like. Stalking of potential victims and stuff like that. It's like they see somebody, they go for them, and they are brutal in their approach, and so it does kind of lose the it kind of makes it less consistent when, like you say, like we say, you've essentially they are acting out of character, and especially with goats, it was given that I mean he does seem to have a higher level of intelligence than the others, because obviously he's doing a bit of a trick, playing a bit of a trick on these peoples, but yeah, I mean it just makes more sense when you see them more consistently just absolutely running through these people and just absolutely showing no remorse. I mean, in terms of the violence, it is brutal.
I can imagine. I mean, in fairness, this was pretty darn brutal.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, this is pretty brutal. I mean, they keep it up in the second one, but I would argue that this one was perhaps more. I think because there were less because you're dealing with a focused group as opposed to like villages and like, you know, people just ran, you know, because there's a lot of instances in the second one, for example, where they're having to introduce characters very briefly so that they can get off quickly, just so you can get the kill count up. But with
the
this
Terrifier method.
Yeah. So, but with this, obviously, you're dealing with a close group of people. It's a closed, cast, if you will, and so you know each death means something to the viewer. How it's intended to mean something.
Yeah, you do have more of a build-up. I mean, before we get to those deaths, I just thought maybe a little bit of that groundwork here. When we've got some nice stuff early on when they get in, and they don't waste much time getting them into the bunker.
No.
Which I appreciated. This is one of the ways they saved money, is they basically film in forests, very cheap, and then they're in the bunker, and it's just bunker sets after then. So they are incredibly efficient with that. This is where you can save a ton of money, and they do, but it still looks good. They also shoot it in the dark a lot, which is good for scares, but also darker set, much cheaper to work with, so much cheaper. This is smart film production here. They know what they're doing. And there's just little moments where you see they've clearly thought about how to light a scene. Like there'll be one person with the light who looks borderline choreographed, the way they have to move the light around to cover the right places. And I thought, oh, you've put a lot of thought into that. So that was, I see the NREAB is also appreciating the lighting and camera work. Yeah, it looks good. I mean, it kind of really reminds me of a lot of modern horror games where you just go through the passages and it's very low lighting. And
I thought the color scheme, that very sort of dull color scheme, very sort of Resident Evil 4 type, or like the first 2 seasons of Supernatural, that kind of style. I wasn't too much of a fan of that. I found it quite. I don't know why, but I just, when I was watching it, I found it quite distracting, because all I could think of in my head was, excuse me, all I could think of in my head at the time was, it almost feels like they want to make it a black and white movie, and do you know what? I actually think it would have been great, much better, if it was a black and white film. That noir effect, because I mean, you know, especially because you're going back, you know, you're fighting enemies from a time where, you know, television was black and white, so I think it would be a nice little connection.
I could see that. Yeah, I might enjoy it. There is something about black and white can feel quite lively in a way that this very sort of stripped down, borderline sepia color filter. I think I lost a sentence there. Black and white can feel very lively, with sharp contrast in a, whereas this can feel quite almost like enervating. Like, you know how people would talk about the old J-horror remakes with their blue filters, how it would just make it feel kind of low energy and depressing. This had that effect as well. I mean, you're already filming in Scotland. You don't need to make it look worse. It's already.
Unless that was just the natural light, and just light works differently in Scotland.
Yeah. No, they had very plainly slapped a heavy colour filter on this to give it a distinctive look. But I know what you mean. It did make it a bit of a... how can I say? When you couple it with a film that has quite a languid pace, quite a slow pace, it did drain a bit of the energy out, I think.
Yeah, that's what it felt like for me.
And to try and defend it, though, I feel I am going to end up in the middle of this. It did make it look quite distinctive. I've got to give it that.
I mean, I'd probably say it was something more reminiscent of its time. Excuse me, because as I say, I was watching. I've been recently trying to catch up with all the Supernaturals again. I've started that from scratch, and the first 2 seasons are, you know, have a very sort of similar sort of color scheme. You know, it's very sort of greyish. You know, there's not too much contrast. It's quite dark. It felt like, and bearing in mind you're talking what 2005, 2006, I think the first 2 seasons were, and this was 2008, filmed in 2007, so it's around about that particular time. Yeah, I definitely feel like it was something of its time. But
I think they took an inspiration from Hostel, probably.
Yeah, I mean, but in terms of, I mean, if you were to compare it to another zombie film, say the Dawn of the Dead reboot, I mean, you know, you couldn't be further from the others, you know, completely opposite sides of the spectrum, because, you know, Dawn of the Dead was very rich in colour, rich in contrast, whereas this is, like you say, it's just absorbed. It's just absorbed of it.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And that was what, 2003?
Oh gosh, I think you're right. 2003, 2004, about that time. Sounds about right. Yeah, I can see why you wouldn't go for this as much, and I'm quite sympathetic, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I just remember when I watched it for the first time, when it first came out. I think it was like DVD when I first watched it, and yeah, I think I remember struggling with it then because of that for that reason, and because it was such a slow paced film in the build up.
It's tricky because I don't want to say like rush it, but
oh yeah,
I felt there were quite a few bits where it was just the killing time, especially like hanging around, going on the night watch, someone gets shot and nothing kicks off, shooting into the trees. That's probably why people have been comparing it to Predator. Actually, that's just random
exactly.
shoot. But I don't feel it got that sense of creeping paranoia as much. It just felt like there was just a shooting scene that didn't particularly go anywhere.
Yeah, and they sort of brushed it off to like either insurgents or local army.
Yeah,
and sort of just carried on with the day, but just obviously, you know, the tactical decision making from Ray Stevenson's character I thought was quite cool actually, because after that shootout scene where I think is it the Irish guy who gets shot?
Yeah, Michael Smiley on the right there.
Yeah, when he gets shot, you know, they sort of regroup, don't they? And then he sort of starts talking about, you know, how they're in a tactical disadvantage and how they need to. Because essentially, the reason why they've got to stay in that bunker now is because of the fact that they believe that they're surrounded, and they are, I say tactically disadvantaged because they've got the low ground, they're in a wooded area, poor vision. You know, they don't know how many enemies they could potentially be dealing with. So I quite like that. I did quite like the fact that they were recognising that and making decisions based off of that, rather than, I don't know, just sort of like brushing it off and then just sort of moving on to something else and just almost forgetting about it.
And in fairness to them, they did also supply extra pressure for why they need to stay in there and not let it when things get really creepy. That is their handler. What's his name? Come on, help! What's his name?
Is it Hunt? Yeah, I only recognise that because of the second one, because they kept bloody mentioning him.
Never remember any names. As I find out what he's here for, and I'm terribly sorry about this. I just got one screen cap of him when we're learning what's really going on, what he's really there, and just this screen cap here.
Oh, I'm gonna check that in a sec. Let's have a look. Oh, is that the bit when he finds the device?
Yeah, it's where he finds the device. I've got this image saved as Indiana Farage. It's Nige, isn't it?
It's so true. Nige. That's so true.
Oh, cracked me up. He gives them the reason that his financial backers are basically not good people and will destroy them all, will destroy their families if they try and run. So that gives them the extra reason. So nice bit of plotting. Also, hey, not Moriarty, good to see you catch it live. I'm glad you're liking it. Terrible jokes of ours as well, you know. We're keeping. I think people are liking Indiana Farage. Oh no, I couldn't resist it. Yeah, I wanted to just go back to something because I know I'm throwing quite a lot of criticisms out, but I had scenes like this early on. This is where they first discover Guts, aka the breather, when they go down into this chamber. And obviously they are... I've got to be careful with my words here. When they go in here and they uncover a pile, it's a very plain room with a locked door, and there's a pile of naked bodies, very, very pale. Given the situation, we're obviously meant to be having memories of notable 20th century tragedies.
Oh, I thought they were trying to deal with the immigration problem, South Park style.
Ooh, woo. Taking care of the goobacks.
Yep.
Yes.
It was because they had...
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. Oh, gosh. Obviously, we're meant to get that thought in our head. Even... I'm not sure if we find out if they were people who were sort of...
I think they were actually...
with the Disney HR staff.
Well, that's the thing. I think they were... Like people who'd been removed from the physical realm, shall we say? But I found it really odd that there was no decomposition, because I'm assuming that this,
that's your first giveaway, isn't it?
Yeah,
that something's very weird. But in this scene, it's quite unnerving. I've got to say, this was effective. And don't just take my word for it. Waifu jumped massively and screamed in this scene, which was fantastic.
Was it when the hand popped up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she was getting creeped out even before that.
Okay.
I always take that as a measure. If waifu screams, successful scene.
Phrasing.
Oof. Oh dear. Family friendly stream. Family friendly. Honestly. They threw out quite a lot of jump scares in this, but they also had a whole bunch of scenes like this where they played it low, they played it slow, they had just a creepy detail in the background, and they just made you feel unnerved as they played with the light. And it also, a lot of films would have everything lit normally, and then for their big scary scene, they'd mess with the lights, find some reason to bring the lights down and have it all in shadows. In this, the lighting is consistent.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like cheating. So I'd say, pretty good.
Yeah.
This is why I'm going to end up in the middle on this film. It has some effective scares.
Yeah. I would say that in terms of in terms of this film, I don't think it's anything to write home about, but it's not like a disaster or anything like that. Like, it is watchable, and you can sort of track the story as it goes. So it's not something that loses you. It's very simplistic in its approach, and so I do admire that. But yeah, there's just a few things about it. I wasn't too it didn't have me gripped.
There was something that did really annoy me. Actually, can we just... Do you think is there a particular thing that sort of stopped you getting really absorbed and getting gripped?
Yeah, I mean, really, for me, it was the pacing, and as I say, that particular stylistic choice. I mean, I'm not against it. I don't know. I felt like, because it just really distracted me, because I was just thinking to myself throughout the film, like, oh man, it would look better if it was black and white. And I think just thematically, with what you're going up against, I just think it would have been a nice little touch. And for me, that sort of took me out of the film. And I will admit, like, I have watched this a few times this week just to try and recall as much as I can, but every time I go back to it, I'm like, oh man, I mean, I saw enough of this. I mean, and I say that, and again, I say, repeating myself, but yeah, watching Supernatural for the first time in ages, the first 2 seasons in particular, and then seeing that I was getting the same vibe watching those, and like, it's a great show, the first 2 seasons in particular, and even watching that, I'm like, oh, it's just it just feels dead. I don't feel.
I can't disagree. It's not Alien.
Yeah.
Alien has a slow pace, but I think when you have extra character work, or you could just do a lot more with the plot to uncover information. But I feel like once we're in, we did get most of the information we needed, and then there was just a lot of stalling while things ramped up, and not much changed. That's why I'd probably say about it. That's why it felt like it just had this huge sagging 30 minutes before the killings start.
Yeah. I mean, I think a problem for me as well was the fact that there were so many Disney staff employees. I feel like
They only paid for 3,
Well, I mean, it felt like there was a lot more there, but I mean, it did. Yeah, there were more there. Surely there were definitely more.
Yeah. They only cast 3, and then they just duplicated them.
Ah, right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, yeah. The fact that there was just so many of them, it just felt like, yeah. If it was only like 1 or 2, like maybe one actual soldier, and then obviously the twist at the end. Oh no, Gert says he's one of them as well. And actually, what they wanted to do was perhaps release the others, which would have fell into the sequel. I think that probably would have made it more threatening in a way, because I think one's a tragedy. They say like one's a tragedy, 1,000's a statistic. For me, I think if you've got like an army of undead soldiers, and we're not talking, and I know this is supposed to be a zombie film, but they're not they're not zombies in the traditional sense.
We probably shouldn't call them zombies. They are distinct.
Yeah,
also animu.
But for me, it stops being a horror, and it's more of like a supernatural action film at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas perhaps if it was one, you could sort of look at it through the lens of like Alien, like you said, where you've got one real threat throughout the film, or sort of harking back to it, Predator.
It's basic scary economics.
Less is more in that situation, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Scarcity increases value. One Michael Myers is a lot more effective than a whole horde of, let's say, ghost pirates from the fog.
And I think when it's established that you can't kill them, like you don't need 100 of them, or 30, 40, 50 of them. One's more than enough. And also this thing can teleport.
I think we'll get into that. Maybe if we discuss once things actually kick off, this is something that's either the greatest problem in the film or kind of the best thing about it. So we'll get into that before we start discussing the really gory stuff. And by the way, this is where we are spoiling the whole film, but we will specifically spoil the end now. Before we do that, I just want to say a massive thanks there to the NREAB, who is on a bit of a gifting spree. Now, I'd have said thank you earlier, but I don't actually get notified in StreamYard when there's gifting. So I just saw from people thanking the NREAB for the gift. So I'm going to join them. Many thanks. I'm counting 7 memberships gifted. Absolute star. Thank you. So everyone who's just got a membership, you now, thanks to the NREAB, you've got access to a whole bunch of exclusive stuff. And it's a good prompt for me. I will get you a special upload this week. There was something I was meaning to do. I will get you a special upload this week that you can enjoy. And then you can tell me if I need to release it widely. It'll be a member exclusive you can all enjoy now.
Very nice.
Massive thanks to the Henry Abb. It's much appreciated. Yeah, so let's get into this crux of the issue. Once the killing actually starts, which I should note is about 52 minutes in, and it's one of those, it's, Tak is his name, I believe.
Tak, yeah.
Is the first to go.
Yeah, he's a Russian guy, isn't he? Or...
Yeah. And they've also got a Slav there who's literally wearing a tracksuit and squats. I love it.
Yeah.
Couldn't get enough of it. Literal Slav squatting. Ah, oh, perfect. Tak is one of their mercenaries. And one of the cute things is that they're all ex-soldiers and they all wear completely clashing uniforms. To an extent, part of that I think is messaging of the civilized world against the Disney menace. But also, I think it had this ragtag feel, like kind of like that everyone just wore their own uniforms.
Yeah, I to be fair, I didn't get the world versus Disney. I just saw it as a group of mercenaries, and yeah, like again, very sort of Predator-esque. They're from sort of different walks of life, if you will. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, Tak. This is, as I said, it's either the best thing about the film or the worst. But Tak, just as I recall, and I tried to rewatch to make sure I got it right, he does just kind of disappear in a firefight.
Yeah.
And he's been teleported out by the zombies.
Yep.
I shouldn't call them zombies. Well, the ex-Disney employees will stick with.
I'd say current. Have you seen what they're doing over there?
Yeah, correctly. He's kidnapped. You get very close up and he's offed in a brutal fashion with the Mima's making great use of the every time someone uses my special Furman icon, it just makes me so happy. And you got the older Connor there doing the no hate watching. Love it. Sorry, makes me very happy. He dies in a savage way. Now, I was losing patience for this, I've got to be honest, because as we said, there's about 30 minutes in the middle that is so slow. But they really impressed me with how they managed to make his death visceral, painful. I found it quite hard to watch.
Yeah, and it's the bit when he's like, please, I have a daughter, or like, I have a child. It's like, oh no, Daddy's not coming home. Yeah, it was really unpleasant. Like, this film didn't play it for laughs. It was nasty. Like, I don't know if I said already, but they physically push the big bullets into him. Yeah.
And then into his eye. It's nasty. At the same time, so that was effective, but at the same time, as we have with the sort of phantom appearances where they disappear and then reappear, if they're teleporting, you do start to think, hang on, what are the rules?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, why haven't they... Again, there's more than enough of them just to sort of swoop in, take them out, and then, go about their day. Like, this film could have been... Yeah, I mean... They're having to... play around with the power levels, and it did feel quite contrived. The fact that on the one hand you've got them coming. I mean, they even sort of like loosely acknowledge it when when they make the final stand a bit later on after this scene, and one of the guys just literally just says, "What if they teleport behind us?" And the guy's like, "Well, we're fudged."
I loved that they said that, though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so do I. Like, because they openly acknowledge that is a thing that could happen, and it's kind of like, yeah, why isn't that the case? Why are they quite happy to just go head on into a shower of bullets when they could literally just bye bye?
Yeah, they say that, and it's many films are kind of guilty of this, of like the random rules, what if they just do this? What if our enemy just acts logically?
Yeah.
Many films don't engage with this, but this did, and even better after basically saying, yeah, we can't do anything against them. They didn't. How can I say? They didn't do the typical thing, and the typical thing is what we'd call the Harry Kim maneuver.
Okay.
AKA, Hunt would have gone to the magical. Was it who would call it a magical bullshit device? There's a channel that calls it that.
Drinker?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it is Drinker actually. Yeah,
Is it?
He'd call it. I'm pretty sure it's him.
It's funny because I could hear it in Scottish when you
think-
said that.
I think it's, and also I'd like to say nice things about the chap occasionally. I've got to balance it out. A typical film, I think, would have had your boy Hunt run into the room, and once it's just all the characters you like left, he'd have done something on the magical BS device, and it would be a Harry Kim maneuver, and suddenly science would have solved the problem. And I thought they were going to do that, and they didn't, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, there's a lot more coming out here, and that's brilliant. Thank you so much, the NREAB. You got on more gifting sprees. Crikey. Thank you ever so much.
Stop by my channel on the way, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm joking.
All right. Is this in response to the request for a Gatsby memorial emoji? I will do it. I'm 100% here for that. That's a lovely idea.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Absolutely. Ah, brilliant. Crikey. It's like the whole chat is members now. You love it. All right. So, where are we? I think I was going to say basically. Oh, Fez has referenced it as well. Phlebotinum. Yeah. The magic BS device is basically phlebotinum. If that means nothing to everyone, that is a TV trope's name, I believe derived from Joss Whedon. And it's to basically say it's the magical thing. You don't need to understand it, but it is the magical thing that enables the plot to happen. Night Normie, thanks for dropping by. Good to see you, man. It's a kind of, once you've identified something as phlebotinum or identified it as a MacGuffin, it's like, fine, we can move on with the plot. They kind of do that here. I'm just glad that they didn't use that to solve the problem, because that would have been extremely unsatisfying. Instead, far better, everyone just dies horribly.
But do they though?
Well, we can leave the wrinkles of the plot details. We can leave that aside. Sorry, of the sequels aside. Sorry, I mangled that. Long week, folks. Long week. But yeah,
all I was going to say was, if there is incentive to watch the sequel, all I would say is there is an off-screen death that isn't an off-screen death.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
We'll leave that hook there. And I gather the reviews for the sequels are actually a little bit more generous.
It's interesting you say that. I do believe. So hang on, I'm just looking at the IMDb's for both. So why isn't this? Why isn't it giving? Oh, here we go. So the first one got a 5.8 out of 10 from IMDb. The second one got a 4.9. And I'm pretty sure the sequel got a 17% Rotten Tomatoes score, and I think that's the audience that did that, and not the. I could be wrong.
A little bit messed up. I was getting this mostly from an interview with the producer.
Oh, really?
I think I might have fell for him talking his own movies up. Damn you, movie producer.
Just gonna have a look.
Yeah, but
Rotten Tomatoes, I see it got audience score 17%, and it's had four reviews from the Tomato Meter. I'm assuming that's. Oh yeah, no, I think
They haven't given it a chance, clearly. That's got to be it. They just need to give it a chance.
Just going to look at Outpost 2008. So yeah, 17%, and the first one got double that, 34%.
Oh, yeah, that's... Oh dear. Oh dear. Never mind. I believed the hype, unfortunately.
Yeah,
I will never believe the hype again.
do you know what?
On it.
Yeah, to be fair, I feel like this is a film because, like I say, when I first watched it, and I do remember watching it when it first came out, in particular on DVD, I believe, because I didn't see it in the cinemas. But I do remember when I first, when I first watched it, I didn't really like it that much. I thought it was a bit naff. But having said that, when I did the rewatch for this, I didn't really think it was as bad as when I first watched it.
No.
I felt like I understood it a little bit better, and I say for me, it feels very middle of the road. It's like, yeah, okay, I could watch this, but again, it's nothing that I'd scream from the rooftops about.
No. That seems very fair. It could do with character development. It could definitely do with pacing improvements, so the plot was doled out a bit more evenly.
Yeah.
Because this is a short film, but it felt long.
Yes. Yeah.
Even just like all I can focus on is there was just that long stretch where it felt like nothing happened, and then when we get to the stuff, it's good. Like, I saved this bit just because I thought this was so effective. I apologize, folks. This is going to look a bit nasty. I'll get it up there. This scene when the second chap is kidnapped and killed. I can't show any more of this, but the way they open the chap's mouth up with the knife, the sound effects on it, that was so effective. Like, I winced. It was the kind of nastiness that is viscerally, it viscerally connects to you. You can imagine this, you know?
Yeah.
I felt my teeth hurting looking at this.
Oh my god, yeah, definitely.
Do you know what I mean about that thing? Like, there's a kind of we're never going to stay monetized. It's fine. In Hostel, when a character has their eyeball blowtorched out, I'm like, that's kind of gross. But I can't imagine how that would feel. But in The Color Out of Space, when the wife is chopping carrots and that knife goes on her fingers, that I could imagine. Like, I know how that feels, so that would just be it. I could just empathize, and it landed so much more. Like, this kind of violence where you can viscerally connect to it, I think is so strong.
Do you know what? I don't know if this is perhaps the right way to say it without chat getting all sweaty, but I felt like these first two kills, there was almost like a level of intimacy involved.
Yeah, I mean, the chap's held down. It's incredibly up close. The fact that they don't shoot the first guy, but they push the bullets into him.
Yeah.
I think intimate's probably quite a good word for it, for how close they get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the vibe I got from it. It felt, I don't want to say sexual, but it kind of had that kind of energy towards it. Like, the Disney staff members were very, very much getting off, or like had that energy when doing what they were doing.
I mean, I'm going to possibly be unpopular and say this is a little bit of the current energy where the mid-century Germans, the Disney HR staff, are portrayed as just pure demonic, unfiltered, no Brita filter, total evil, any kind of evil you put it on them, it's all fine. You know, devil worship, they'll do that too. Yeah, sure. So they've just been made like kind of demonic here, and the fact that it's thrown, they are just basically demonic. Frankly, there's no attempt to connect them to flesh and blood humans serving in particular historical regimes with distinct belief systems. It's just, no, they are absolute demonic evil, and they will do the most sadistic, torturous stuff that they can. It's like, you might as well, like, they don't speak, they just try and hurt. It's that sort of more modern idea of it. As I've said, you know, there's quite a few of the ones where you do just get the mid-century Germans, the Disney HR department, as actual monsters in a way, like as like literal demonic monsters. This wouldn't be the first thing to do it. But it's kind of interesting that it does it with no humor whatsoever. I see. I forgot where I was. Oh, the only other thing I was going to add to this is I think this is probably coming off with probably quite a lot of that still torture porn era vibes. Like, just because it was made in 2008, they probably thought, we got to put a little bit of that energy on it.
Yeah. And I suppose maybe if you were to sort of look at it from that perspective, it might explain why they didn't just do, you know, the old teleport in and out job, you know. Maybe
explain it.
It does explain it in a way, because I mean, they're not, there's almost the thrill of it, and you know, it's not the same energy if you're just sort of zapping in and zapping out again, you know.
Yeah, I got the vibe from the fact that the breather Gertz likes to be in the center, likes to watch, you know. Like the picture of the action. Oh gosh,
He's got the Sneeko chair.
He's got his Nintendo Switch. Oh no! Do not shoot that. Do not shoot. I'm going to get that off because that's a very unpleasant imagery there. Oh dear. I'll go for a nicer image if I can find one. Oh crikey! Let's go for this one. I did have an absolute tism over this moment, by the way.
Oh, what's happened there? I can't make it out.
All right, so this is a moment. They spend a while and they're trying to restore power to the bunker.
Right.
And when they restore power to the bunker, suddenly the projector turns on.
Ah, yes.
And I had a little Harrian moment because it's like, no. That's not how that works.
Oh, right. Okay. Do you know what? I'm looking at that wrong because it looked like someone was pinned up on, like someone had been pinned up on the flag.
Oh, right. No, sorry.
I was like, when did that happen? But I just realised
it's Doomguy when he discovers the
that's
projector.
right. Yeah, I love him as well because he's very he disagrees but appreciates the culture.
Oh, Fez, yes, it is safe. We've taken the image off. It's all good. Don't worry.
He's very appreciative. Yeah, because he does sort of, when he sees that, he's like, you gotta hand it to him. They definitely knew how to do things in style. And then there's another bit when he's like outside looking around and he's just like, I love culture.
But it upset me viscerally that the projector came straight on again. I don't believe, I don't think it would have worked like that.
Unless it's a multi-dimensional projector. It
would have had to be flipped. Anyway, we won't go into projector mechanics, but that wouldn't work. Did you notice the classical music that they played, by the way?
Was it the? Yeah.
Yeah. That is Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Is the first movement. Known best for Ode to Joy, the fourth movement, later taken up as the EU anthem. I quite liked that they played that, The first movement's very feisty. I just thought,
did you say it was the EU anthem?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It is, yeah. Ode to Joy. Back me up, chat.
Brilliant.
Yeah, for Beethoven, it's Andy Freude. You know, you'll know if you heard it. The Freude schöner Gotterfunken tockte aus Elysium, wir betreten Feuertrunken himmlische dein Heiligtum. That, you know, that bit, you'll know it if you hear it.
I will now.
Oh dear. Sorry, I'm a fan of it. Even if the EU has it, I'm a fan of it. It's just an interesting one for it to be played. Yeah, it just upset me with the projector. I only picked this image basically to talk about the projector, if I'm honest with you. So we've been talking about how the kills are very effective, but the rules around the zombies are kind of nonsense, and they can do anything they want. But also, when it's built in that they are sadistic, then it kind of explains why they don't just do the instant killing. So they're kind of redeeming themselves, and then when it builds up to a situation when your characters end up saying we're going to have to do a last stand in the bunker, and the film having told you that it's futile and they can't win, then doesn't let them win and does the obvious thing of the reanimated Disney employees just teleporting and doing the instant kills. I mean, I kind of respected that, to be honest.
I quite like this sort of final siege. I did like it. It felt like at that point the film was where it needed to be pace-wise, but it was just sort of like 0 to 60. Like it does like 0 to 10 for the first sort of 70 minutes, and then it just all of a sudden revs into overdrive, and then kicks on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I appreciated this, and I think it was kind of like Ray Stevenson at his best at this moment, because again his character really came out at that point. The full tactician, the leader, came into the forefront.
It was nice. They gave quite a few people their sort of final stand moments, and I've got a weakness for it. They always land well. It's always emotionally involving for me, I think, to see those moments. You know, anytime someone does that, it's sort of I go for it. I lap that up. It's very effective for me.
Yeah.
And kind of knowing that we're doing this as a bit of a tribute to Ray Stevenson, seeing him go out like an absolute champ in this, maybe it landed a little better.
Well, yeah, I mean, he definitely he definitely dies like a hero. He dies a hero's death in this film. But it really, really bugged me that it happened off screen. Really bugged me. Sorry. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them do that, though. I think it's to kind of... Often the intent is to kind of give the character glory. Like, it doesn't matter that they died. It matters that they went out fighting. I think you like the Dune movie. I want to rewatch it, but I think there was a character who does a kind of last stand in that, who I think they didn't actually show the death, but it was clear enough that it was futile. Yeah,
I mean, again, if I'll go back to Dawn of the Dead towards the end of that film, when when their truck is overrun and all the zombies are there, and you got that one guy who sort of stays behind, and he's getting you get a death scene, a hero's death, which completely redeems this particular character, whilst also yeah, it serves both purposes. He literally goes out in a blaze of glory because he sets off the propane tanks. Something similar, like maybe if he had a hand grenade or something like that. I mean, obviously it wouldn't do anything to the zombies, but then nothing would.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah,
they might teleport again. I mean, they seemed affected by the mines, but I think with this we just don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not gonna, but although he kind of goes out on his own terms, if rather than at the hands of these creatures, if you want to call them that, he checks out on his own terms, which would mean, whilst also perhaps buying this guy a little bit more time. But again, it's difficult because these guys can teleport. So you could say, oh, he sets off a grenade, which then causes like a small a small structure failure, which blocks off the particular door that they're trying to get through to. But then they literally teleport when he goes through the. It's so stupid. Oh. You can't do it. You can't. There's a there's a counter to everything, because these Disney staff members are so inconsistent with their power levels. And I suppose if you can explain it away as them being horny, the horny kind when it comes, and that's their kink, and they like the pain. It explains it to a certain degree, but
it is a bit of a wibble, isn't it? It's a kind of, what does the pitch meeting guy says, when there's any kind of, why does someone not do the obvious thing so the movie can happen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, again, if it's established, because when you look at films like the Friday the 13th series and you talk about Jason being able to teleport, I mean, that's kind of, it's not canon that he can, as far as I'm aware, it's not canon that he can literally teleport. He's just a very sneaky character who apparently knows all the shortcuts. But these these are literally hopping in and out of reality. They're there one minute, gone the next, and it's established that they can literally just pop up from behind you and take you out. And so why they're not doing that, I mean, at a stage like this where presumably they know that they're trying to get the machine back online to try and contain them again, why aren't they just going in and just going, right, okay, well enough of that? Like, Ray Stevenson, great plan, mate, but the one thing that you did take into account is, what if they pop up from behind? Well, why don't they just do that?
Because Gertz is thinking, do you really think I would let you sabotage my plan if there were any chance of you affecting it?
But again, like, he didn't
I'm
know
mangling
that.
A quote from Watchmen there, but
Right.
hopefully everyone else appreciated it.
Yeah. But he just it's just annoying. Actually, the more I think about it now, the more annoyed I get about it. Like, they should have just wiped him out. Wiped him out. Like, they could have literally taken them, captured them, and then, like I say, with the old horny death, I suppose, for want of a better word, they could have just done that at their own time. Slim says they're spirit zombies with no real plan. But, well, again, no, 1,000-year Reich, mate. They literally have a plan, and they start to expand on that in the second film.
Ooh,
they literally do have a plan, I'm afraid.
I've just seen that Marina's 2-year-old is a fan of Ode to Joy, and I just want to say, Marina, good taste. I appreciate that. It's good.
Mergu, in part 2, did they talk about vril energy? Well, to be fair, when I watched the second part, I was kind of like doing other things at the same time, and so I wasn't really fully concentrating on it. But the main objective or the main goal of that film was, you had like the military trying to stop the Disney staff members from essentially expanding from the initial sort of bunker, because wherever they essentially their range was growing, and it was getting to a point, like typical zombie virus threat, oh my god, it's contained in this area, but it's spreading at an alarming rate, and they're going to take over the world before we know it. And it's like, okay, they're trying to stop them. You got another person trying to look for Hunt, which is the woman, and then you got another guy who's trying to, I can't remember what his main purpose was really, but he was kind of I love that picture. But he sort of tagged along with the woman, because I think he was also trying to stop the machine, if you will. But again, there's plot twists in that which are bloody dumb and make no sense.
I'm kind of tempted now. I'm not going to lie. I'm tempted to try the second.
I think you have to really. I mean, because it does expand on the lore a little bit, and you get, as I say, they give this guy a name as opposed to the breather. So they do expand on the lore, and in fact, I'm pretty sure she's explicitly trying to search for this guy. Yeah.
All right, I'm tempted. I'm very tempted.
Yeah, I'm going to go and watch it again, like put some more attention to it. But yeah, it's definitely not as good as the first one.
Yeah. I was on a knife edge. I don't know if you do a very good job of pointing out all the problems with the way the mechanics of the reanimated Disney HR department works. I will still end up, I think, respecting it for just saying there's no way you can get out of this alive, and then they don't get out of it alive. And they ended it with a maybe slightly predictable, but still effective scare on Hunt dying. I like that. I mean, it's kind of obvious how he was going to go down, but it still worked for me.
There was an air of inevitability. I mean, obviously, when Hunt does get the machine working and he does sort of stop them in their tracks and contains them, for that brief moment, you kind of think, "Oh, look, they've done it," and then the machine goes tits up, and then they will just start getting back up again. It's like, yeah, you're buggered. No hope now. It's done.
Yeah, and after that, they don't mess around really. You know where it's going, and they give you the old the cycle starts again, just like in Asylum last week. Just like in Asylum, it rhymes. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was kind of everything I had on this. I don't know about you, if there was anything in particular you wanted to touch on.
Not really. I think you're right. I think we've covered pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about. I would say if you've watched this, maybe do check out the sequel just to get that expansion on the lore. And yeah, for me the big problem with this film is the fact that they can teleport. They can literally teleport. It is dumb.
It's a little silly.
It is a little silly.
It's a little silly.
Yeah, it is a little dumb.
But I mean, I will come out middle on this, but we might as well get our closing thoughts and scores in now. Before we do that, though, can I go a little bit off our usual practice, if you don't mind?
Of course, I don't mind.
So I'm going to put a poll up, folks. We have some options for next week's film, and I thought I'd just offer it to you. We're going to get back to horror anthologies next week. The last thing we covered was 1972's Asylum. Now, we're kind of at the end of a big transitional period there. Horror anthologies kind of do a jump to the next phase quite soon. But there is a bit of a gap. So if you want, we could stick around, and the next one we can do a late 70s horror anthology, which is kind of like the tail end of the era we were in, or we can jump straight forward into the next sort of big evolution. And I will leave that choice to you. If you want to see the tail end of it and watch Trilogy of Terror, which is adapting Richard Matheson stories and starring Karen Black, who I know has a few fans here, We can do that. That's 1977. Or we can watch Creepshow. That is George A. Romero's direction of Stephen King stories. So I'm going to leave that for you folks. If you're in, vote. You decide. I'm good either way. I'd quite like to watch Trilogy of Terror. I'm curious. But if you guys want to just see the next thing that happens in horror anthologies, let me know. And TCG has obviously reminded you of the very important thing, to smash the like. Give that, in fact, grab that like button, push it against the wall, and just keep pushing it against the wall until there's a rather unpleasant prosthetic effect.
Excuse me.
You know. Like happened to the guy. And then take that subscribe button and in its eyeball, you want to just push anyway. We'll never be monetized for this stream. We haven't got a chance in heck, have we?
Well, still hit the appeal button. You never know.
We'll give it a shot, you know. I get a lot past them. Anyway, so you do that. Help the stream out. I think you guys have been fat. I mean, the likes are in, but there are 24 people in the stream now. Let's get the likes up to 24. I'm sure we can do it. All right.
I did my part.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so I think we will now get on with our closing thoughts and scores. And chat, if you did your homework, pitch in and give us your thoughts as well. We'll do this in our customary out of 12 burgers thing. Although I think maybe the 12 burgers thing is maybe a bit overdone now. Maybe we'll switch it up. In light of Outpost, let's do it out of 12 German citizens, aka burgers.
No, I refuse to play by these rules.
How could I resist it when the German for a citizen is a burger? How can I not do it?
Okay. Well, if it's the same word or sounds the same,
word.
I will play along this time. But if you start messing around with the format, Horror Show, we're going to have to talk about the future of this channel and the future of this live stream. So, I'm only joking. In terms of what I think or how I would rate it, I would say I'm very sort of middle of the road with this film. I don't think it's as bad as what sort of like the critics make it out to be, but I certainly don't think it's a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination. That being said, the fact that you highlighted this evening that it was done on a 1.2 million budget, which for 2008 money, that's very much a shoestring budget. That has a lot of redeeming qualities to me, because it didn't look like a film that was made with 1.2 million. However, pacing is very much an issue of this film. It just drags for the longest time, and then ramps up towards the end. Characters were very... I mean, Ray Stevenson's character, brilliant, very, very cool, very cool. But then I think the other cast were very much one-dimensional in that regard. I mean, especially the Yankee dude, what literally came off the back of Doom, which was 2005, and it was exactly the same character, to the point where I couldn't picture him in Doom, but I was like, I know I've seen this character play this type of role in a movie before, which is it? And then as soon as you said Doom, it was like, of course it was. You could tell that it took its inspiration from other films as well, like Predator. I feel like it should have been a black and white film, because it was almost like it was sort of wanting to, but didn't want to go over that threshold. But the kills were decent, very brutal, very, very, very much I like. The idea of an unkillable, unstoppable Disney staff member is nothing short of terrifying to me. But the fact that they can teleport makes it very hard to see why the enemies that they are facing up against are lasting as long and as competently as they are. So overall, I would give it a very bland 6 out of 12 burgers. I will give it a dodgy moustache and an 80s mullet for good measure, holding a can of Fanta and the keys to a Volkswagen.
That's very... You're on the verge of saying, I don't appreciate you, but you're not going to quite go over there yet.
Yeah, it's one of those films where I could watch it if there's nothing better on. I wouldn't dismiss it. It's not something that I'd say is utter gutter trash, which is why I don't think that... I think a 34% Rotten Tomatoes rating is harsh. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing to scream and shout about, personally.
I mean, I can't argue. It's this...
And a monocle, yes, John, yes, and a monocle.
Absolutely. I saw Joe's comment earlier of just Joe, I admire your commitment. Your commitment to sparkle motion. I admire it. It is free with ads on Amazon if you fancy, but other internet sites do exist. Yeah, I can't argue with that, to be honest. Marina, I'm going to have to do some calculation to work out what that is in 12, I think. But, did we get a score from you? Anyway, I'm not going to differ too much. So, stuff I like that everyone died, that there wasn't a magic Harry Kim maneuver, just pulling the solution out. I like that. I like that they asked the right questions about teleporting zombies. There was an attempt to explain why they didn't just insta-kill. I like that. No one did a bad performance. That's apparently it's 9.6 burgers in Marina's score. Excellent. Where was I? Okay. Yes. I've totally lost it. Oh, gosh.
You were saying that you appreciate that everybody died.
Appreciate they died. Yes, I liked the nastiness of the kills. Very effective. I like that it had that, but it didn't go overly dour. It didn't feel like sadistic and nihilistic. So that's a win for me. There's lots of really strong imagery in this. The characters were largely undeveloped, but no one was terrible. And interesting choices like Michael Smiley, Richard Brake, Ray Stevenson helmed it very well. He didn't throw himself like into a much bigger character than you would expect. He had this nice air of cynicism, like he knew something was messed up from the start. I really like that. But again, characters weren't hugely developed, but it looked good. The only problem with it is I just think there isn't much there to the plot. And as a result, when they try and fill out the time, there's just that very turgid half hour in the middle, which is painful. And horror movies, gosh, you know I love them, folks, but they do have the unique ability to make a 90-minute movie feel like a 3-hour one if they don't do their pacing right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, The Burning. State that film. Anyway. Or what was it? City of the Living Dead. Do you remember that one? It's like 86 minutes and you're just checking the time like, oh, when is it done? When is it done? So, I mean, there's some silliness. I can tism about the projector, and I did tism about the projector, so I kind of got it out my system. But the main problem, I think, is not too much plot, not too much character, even though it was shot, I think, really nicely. Actually, quite impressive videography. Quite impressive videography. But it's just not much there. I can't go above a 7. And it's a shame because if you polished up a few elements, I think this would be a strong film. But like easily going into a sort of 8 or a 9 where you'd very happily watch it. But it's just that those key elements aren't there and the nice little side touches are. So I would say 7 burgers with lots of sauerkraut and not super saturated either. Yeah, that's about as high as I can go with that, I'm afraid, folks. And I think everyone seems to be in the same place. Marina's gone for a 4.5. Everyone else is clustering around the middle there, so I think we're all pretty unified on that one, to be honest. Yeah, you need a bit more. Oh, Joe, if only you were here at the beginning. I said this should have been called The Reich of the Living Dead. If only you'd been there, mate, you'd have loved it. All right, folks. We're going to stay on the right side of Super Nanny tonight. I know we are. I will end the poll. We've got 21 votes. You guys have surprised me. I'm surprised and impressed. We've actually had Trilogy of Terror win out. I thought Creepshow would absolutely walk it. I'm interested in that one. Is it Karen Black? Is it the fact that they're Richard Matheson stories? Are we just wanting to be completionists and see the end of the era? Because I was torn even on that choice, folks, because there were 2 Richard Matheson based anthologies, basically one after the other. There was Trilogy of Terror and there was Dead of Night, the 1977 version. And I'll just get my timing right on that one. Yeah, that was 1977, sorry, and Trilogy of Terror is 1975. And they're both heavily based on Richard Matheson stories. I'll be interested in what swung it. But never mind, folks. Tell you what, we will lead with Trilogy of Terror, which has got some very famous moments in it. And then Creepshow will definitely be in the next arc, but it might be second. The other thing we've got to contend with, folks, is the 80s gets very, very, very busy for horror anthologies, and we are going to be spoiled for choice. We will try and accommodate it, but for now, we definitely know horror homework is Trilogy of Terror, 1975. So I want to thank you very much for coming along to the stream. I really appreciate it. As I said, we're doing this tribute to Ray Stevenson, taken, I think, far too young, about 4 weeks ago. And I should also mention it's not the first... it's not the only death. I'm afraid my mind is absolutely blanking now at the most inappropriate time, because there was another actor who had gone missing and was found, and I'm afraid Julian Sands. My brain blanked on him at the worst time. He was also confirmed to have passed on. So a little tribute both to Ray Stevenson and Julian Sands. RIP, guys. Well, I don't want to end it on a dour note. You have horror homework. I want to give a massive thanks to TCG as always.
Pleasure as always.
Thank you so much. Thank you, chat. Been very lively tonight. I'm a big fan of that. Next week, we will have a topic section. I am torn. We are either going to look at how Disney slam dunked Mark Kermode, or we'll do a whole load of the games. I'll see what we go for. I'll see what I've prepped. If we're doing Kermode, I will link you to a chapter from his book, The Good, the Bad, and the Multiplex, which you will need to read. That's right, reading. I am assigning you homework, actual reading homework. Oh dear. It was always going to come to this. I will send you a link, folks. But I think that is everything. TCG, any final words, my friend?
No, just go and subscribe to my channel, become a member and all that jazz. Most importantly, watch my videos. And stick out and keep an eye out for any future announcements, because there will be some.
Absolutely. Very good. All right. That's a wonderful thing to end on. So thanks again, chat. And I'll look forward to seeing you next week. And if I haven't put out a member exclusive, and you're basically all members now, you can give me a very hard time and I will deserve it. All right. All the best, folks. I will leave it there. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
#ShowGang.